Students, let us study what is this nomenclature and identification. Okay, then what is nomenclature? Nomenclature is the process of naming of living organisms such that a particular organism is known by the same name all over the world. Once again, nomenclature is the process of naming of living organisms such that a particular organism is known by the same name all over the world. Suppose in a country there are so many states are there. Okay, there are so many types of regional languages are used by people. So in such cases, particular organism is known by different names. When in Kerala, in Malayalam names, but in Madras or Tamil Nadu, there is a Tamil names are there. Okay, but all over the world, the same individual is known by the same name, scientific name. Okay, so that process of naming of living organism such that a particular organism is known by the same name all over the world. Wherever you go in any country in the world, you can identify the organism by the same scientific name. Okay, so that process of naming is called process of naming is called nomenclature. What is that? Nomenclature. If you need to nomenclature, then you identify the organism. How will you identify the organism? With the help of their characteristic, we can identify what is that organism. Okay, so with the help of this process of describing the characteristic features of living organism, that process is called identification. For always the nomenclature is following this identification. Okay, so the process of the naming of living organisms such that a particular organism is known by the same name all over the world. Okay, the same way, the process of describing characteristics of organisms is called identification. What is that? Identification. How will you identify an organism? In a school, suppose there are 2000 students are studying in a school, then all the schools with the different age groups are there. Okay, so how will you identify the small kids or first standard students, 10th standard students with their characteristic features and their age groups? So we need to classify the organism. Okay, so we can call the organisms or call the students by their name. Okay, so with the help of these characteristic features, we can identify that particular group of students. Okay, like that. The process of describing characteristics of organisms is called identification. After this identification, we can call them by their name. So that process of naming the individuals is called nomenclature. Okay, so for the better study or to facilitate the study, the scientists are acceptable some criteria and principles. On the basis of that, the scientists or biologists classify or they keep the records of these organisms, plants and animals. The biologists are all over the world. The biologists are accepted the particular permanent record of this, that is called International Code for Botanical Nomenclature, that is ICBN. Based on the principles and criteria, the biologists keep this ICBN and ICZN. ICBN means International Code for Botanical Nomenclature. What is ICZN? International Code for Zoological Nomenclature. So in the case of plants, ICBN is used. There is a particular organism is known by the particular code or particular scientific name. Example, Mangifera indica is the scientific name of mango. Okay, so the Mangifera indica, when we come to that the second session, that is the Mangifera indica is the common scientific name of that particular plant, mango tree. Okay, so that is come under which group? ICBN, that is International Code for Botanical Nomenclature. Then what about tiger? Tiger is recorded by another nomenclature, that is ICZN. ICZN means International Code for Zoological Nomenclature. There, example, tiger's scientific name is Panthera tigris. So these, wherever you go to this, all the any place of this world, this tiger is known by the same scientific name, that is Panthera tigris. Okay, so that is recorded by as the International Code for Zoological Nomenclature. This is accepted by the biologists in all over the world by on the basis of the principles and criteria. Okay, so in this way, this nomenclature and identification is very important in the case of this biodiversity. Okay, but what is nomenclature? Nomenclature is the process of naming of living organisms such that a particular organism is known by the particular or the same name all over the world. Then what is identification? Identification is the process of describing characteristics of organisms is called identification. With the help of this identification, we can give the particular name to that organism. Okay, so to facilitate the further studies, the biologists are categorized into two codes, are used on the basis of principles and criteria. They are accepted in all over the world, that is ICBN and ICZN. ICBN means International Code for Botanical Nomenclature for plants, and for animals ICZN is used. ICZN means International Code for Zoological Nomenclature. Okay.